Welcome to Creatively Exposed, a conversation for creatives, introverts, sapiosexuals, and all of the people entertained and who love us. I am Liz Flo, the podcast host, poet, writer, and overall Afro-Caribbean Latina creative. I know that is a mouthful, but welcome to the show.
Hello, can anybody hear me? Hello. That was literally me for these last few weeks figuring out this microphone.
But let's get to the show. Welcome back to Creatively Exposed. And I am finding a workaround my microphone situation. Been struggling for a little while now, and so here we are. But hoping that I can be heard clearly. And so in preparation for this episode, I was like, let me research, let me think of a theme or what have you. And then I was like, this is a safe space for creatives. This is a very bizarre time. Half of the internet is like, you should be accomplishing all of these things, and the other half is like, nah, and it's like, how are you truly feeling? If this is the safe space that I've always envisioned, then it should begin with me and being able to feel like this is a safe space, right? So I do have updates about things that I have been working on the days that I do feel like I can take over the world. But overall, it's just been a very big change, like many people, I am unemployed. And that for me has given me a different perspective on some things. And I think sometimes I am still in like a foggy state because I've been working for the last over a decade. At first, when it happened, it kind of felt like a failure on my behalf, right? And I feel like these are part of the intangible expectations that we place on ourselves. And, if this does not apply to you, then just roll with what I'm saying. It took me time to realize that maybe, just maybe, it's because the body is in need of a full stop and a reset. And this is my cup half full, because why look at an empty cup? Has it, especially immediately, was it hard? Hell yeah. And on some days I'm like, I need to go full force and do all these things and try to get this life on track and survive. And it's like, but you're getting in your own way. And I say that because I've been exhausted. And this week was kind of although it was still high on like social networking and social media and what have you, I didn't do any Zooms besides therapy. And it's kind of like I've gotten an overly privileged, right? Because I'm home and I'm safe to whatever extent that means to me. But it's kind of like a jet lag of sorts of the pandemic. Energetically, my introvert is spent. And that's also, falling asleep at all kinds of hours and what have you. Sometimes creating, sometimes just being lollygagging, whatever. But I think to bring it full circle is it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to say that you're struggling. I've been trying to think of what I want my, I can't say future. It's like my future present. That don't make sense, but whatever. Like the nearest future. My now of tomorrow. At first, and I talked about this in therapy, I want to be very intentional with how I move forward with the tools that I have. As extensive as I feel they are, and as restrictive as they may be at some point. But how can I create a vision if I am scrambling to cover the holes? So, like, I'm thinking of a boat, and there's holes in the bottom of the boat, and I'm trying to fill them all up, but like, you only got 4 limbs, right? And then the universe is like, yo, there's a whole other yacht right next to you. If you could just hop on this one and let me flow, you might just get somewhere farther. And so I've been thinking, if this is the community that I want to create, what are my next steps? And it begins with me being my own safe space. What are these days looking like? I think everyone has their own similar response. There are good days, good moments, confusing moments, overwhelming moments, exhaustive moments. I think it's okay to be human beings in a pandemic. If you are out here saying, this is my moment, then seize the hell out of it. Period. Feel what you need to feel. Be real with what needs to be real. And that is that. It is another late random episode from me, yours truly, Liz Flo. I have a couple of thoughts on my mind. One, the importance of being able to say yes, but also say no and mean it each time. And if you change your mind, then that's cool. But you made that decision. I say that because I think in a world of being busy, at least in the US, I know there's people that listen from all over the place, where I am, the world is filled with overextension, over access, oversharing of energy. In these next few months, there's an evaluation of all of these things. Like astrologically, there's a whole bunch of retrogrades. And so I think in my case, I'm looking at what is valuable energetically. And so I've said no many times. And sometimes I worry like I'll get too comfortable with saying no, and then I might not be able to say yes because it took me so long to be okay with saying no and standing by it and meaning it. But there's nothing wrong with you becoming your own sacred space. And if that means saying no, then why not? Yes can be depleting. It can be emptying. And it can take, if it's not from wells, full wells of equal exchange. And so, just something to be mindful about. I've been configuring and trying to understand what these boundaries are starting to look like with certain people. And sometimes people like to overstep on no's. And so it's kind of the universe like, do you really mean that? Like, are you really going to hold yourself down with this no? Or are you going to crumble? What I really want to be mindful of in between boundaries and no's is just because you are home, if you are someone that has to be home, does not mean that you have all of the time in the world for other people. You can make the time for what is most valuable to you, whoever is most valuable to you. But also, like, you're not here just chilling and waiting for others to encroach upon your space. So you hold your safe and sacred space in your hands, and it begins with you feeling safe in your own self and body and surroundings. And so don't let anyone take this time that is yours for themselves, unless it's somebody, within reason, because, like, hey, maybe you need to call your mom. I know I gotta call some of my old folks. Please be mindful of that. Like, your time is yours to figure out what survival and thriving and maybe some new manifestations look like. I am in many ways being still, which sometimes doesn't feel efficient, but it might be the most efficient thing you do. And sitting in what is right now, as in the present. And in that stillness, a lot of amazing things occur. When I go by what feels right, I create. And so, updates. I've been trying to create a community online to further myself as a brand and what is creatively exposed. The what I see, right, is bigger than what I think I've felt tangible before. And so I do have a Patreon, and I'm slowly trying to mold it into something bigger. Eventually, a network of sorts, a coming together. I don't want to overly structure what it's, what I want it to be or what it's supposed to be, because it will suffocate the idea. And that doesn't mean, never having a plan, but in my case, I can overstructure to the point that it can be breakable. And so in this Patreon, the plan is to create exclusive content, have special guest episodes